There comes a moment, subtle, quiet, and often unnoticed, when someone begins to feel your absence more deeply than they ever expected. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it lingers. It pulls at them in silence, in solitude, in the hours they thought they'd enjoy without you. And this moment, it's born not from chaos or confrontation, but from your calm withdrawal, the moment you stepped back with poise, with purpose, and without a word of desperation. Welcome to the everlasting Stoic. If you're ready to reclaim your self-respect, to awaken their longing not through chasing but through powerful stillness, you're in the right place. This video isn't about playing games, it's about becoming someone whose energy is missed the moment it disappears. Someone they remember not because you shouted, but because you walked away without needing to. If you value wisdom over impulse, depth over drama, and growth over games, then take a second now to subscribe. This is your sanctuary for self-mastery and emotional strength. And if this message already resonates with something you've lived, leave a comment as we go. I read them all, and many others do too. Now let's begin. Your silence is not just an absence, it's a message. Chapter 1. Absence ignites want. When you first create distance from someone, the world doesn't immediately shift, the sky doesn't crack open, and they don't collapse to their knees in sudden regret. At first, it may seem like nothing happens at all, but underneath their cool demeanor, beneath the appearances and distractions, your absence is planting a seed, one that will grow whether they acknowledge it or not. People often don't realize the value of your presence until it's no longer within reach. This is human nature. Familiarity is a double-edged sword. Comforting, yes, but also deceiving. It numbs people to the gift that you are. Your kindness becomes routine, your attention expected, your energy consumed like air, always there, unnoticed, until it's gone. The moment you step away, a quiet void opens. They may not speak of it. They might even act unbothered, or worse, relieved. But don't be fooled. You see, longing doesn't explode into being. It simmers. It builds over time. At first, they stretch out in the space you left behind, enjoying their supposed freedom. But then, slowly, the room begins to echo. The conversations lose their color. The laughter feels more distant. The little things that once felt vibrant now fall flat. And this isn't about manipulation. It's about realignment. When you remove your energy, your presence, your reliability, you remind them that you are not a fixture in their world, but a choice. And choices, when lost, tend to haunt the soul far more than anything forced upon us. Here's the truth. Absence is not just space. It's contrast. It forces them to compare what they had with what remains. And when you've been the calm in their storm, the voice of reason in chaos, the support when they didn't even know they needed it, that contrast is powerful. But this only works when the absence is authentic. When it's rooted in dignity, not in passive aggression or secret hopes. You cannot disappear with the expectation that they'll chase. That's not stoic. That's strategy. And people sense it. They can smell desperation, even in silence. Instead, your detachment must come from a place of strength. A decision to walk away, not to punish them, but to protect your peace. To stop giving to someone who no longer appreciates the gift. That's when your absence becomes undeniable. It no longer whispers, it resonates. And here's what's beautiful: in your absence, they will begin to revisit everything. Every conversation, every joke, every flaw they once magnified. Every kindness they took for granted. The mind, when left alone with silence, begins to romanticize. Not just the past, but the person who had the courage to let go with grace. And if they were once drawn to you even a little, that silence will stir discomfort. Not because you're being cruel, but because your distance becomes a mirror, and what they see reflected isn't you. It's themselves, their flaws, their pride, their choices. That is where longing is born. In the quiet recognition that the person who brought light, warmth, or meaning into their life has vanished without a scene. You didn't plead. You didn't perform. You simply left. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them sit with the weight of your absence while you return to yourself, to your discipline, to your goals, to your peace. You owe them no explanation. You owe yourself everything. If you've ever stepped back from someone and watched them spiral in your silence, or if you're in the process of doing so now, share your story in the comments. You never know who might find clarity in your experience. Chapter 2. Your calm draws them. Calm is not weakness. It's not passivity. It's not indifference. Calm is presence. It's power under control. And in a world of noise, of loud reactions, impulsive text, emotional outbursts, true calm is magnetic. When you retreat in silence and remain calm, something strange happens. They begin to notice not only that you're gone, but that you're not even flinching. You're not checking in. You're not liking their photos. You're not hinting at your return. You've simply stepped back, composed, still, unshaken. This calm, when genuine, is unnerving to those who expect to hold emotional power over you. Most people are used to being chased when they create distance. They're used to drama, explanations, or at least some visible pain. When none of that arrives, they're left staring at the space where your reaction should have been. And that silence, it speaks louder than any plea could. Calm communicates confidence. It says, I know my worth. I don't beg for attention. I don't scramble to fix what you broke. I do not chase confusion. And when you stand in that truth, even from afar, it commands attention. Because calm is rare. Scarcity breeds value. They may not say it, but inside they begin to replay the last interactions with new eyes. The way you looked at them without anger. The way you stopped replying without bitterness. The way you smiled without clinging. It's haunting because it shows them that you've mastered something they haven't. Self-respect wrapped in serenity. This isn't about pretending to be unbothered. Pretending breaks down. It cracks at the edges. No, this is about becoming unbothered. About doing the inner work so that your peace isn't an act, but a state, meditation, journaling, purpose, physical discipline. These aren't accessories to healing. They are the architecture of your calm, and the stronger your foundation, the more you radiate it effortlessly. And when you radiate calm, you stop being someone they can control and start becoming someone they admire, perhaps even envy. Your calm draws them not because you're passive, but because you're unshakable. And people are drawn to what they cannot rattle. In your stillness, you become a paradox. They expect fire. They get cool wind. They expect neediness. They get grace. And in that unexpected response, they begin to reevaluate everything they assumed about you and about themselves. If there's one thing that makes people crave your presence again, it's realizing that they can no longer affect your peace. That no tantrum, delay, or rejection can pull you from your center. That realization burns far deeper than anger ever could. Let your calm speak for you. Let your silence be the echo that follows them around when the lights go out. Because eventually they will come to understand you were not reacting because you had already released them. And that quiet release, that's the most powerful act of all. Have you ever experienced a moment when your calm shifted the dynamic completely? When someone noticed your power not through force, but through your stillness? If so, tell us below. Your calm might inspire someone who's still learning to hold theirs. Chapter 3. They feel your void. There comes a time, quiet, creeping, when your absence stops being an abstract idea and starts being something felt. Not just noticed, felt. Deep in the pauses between their thoughts, in the places where your presence used to live. You are no longer just not there. You've become a space, a void. And that space carries weight. In the beginning, they convince themselves otherwise. They fill the silence with distractions. They crowd their time with people, music, movement. They tell themselves they're fine. They may even feel relieved, as if freedom has returned. But what they fail to understand is that freedom, without meaning, becomes emptiness. And if you once brought depth into their life, if you were an anchor, a mirror, a moment of clarity, then your disappearance leaves behind more than silence. It leaves behind contrast. And contrast is how people begin to feel the void. They start to sense it in the smallest ways. In the silence where your messages used to be. In the lack of reaction to their life updates. In the growing awareness that the emotional tether they once felt pulling gently from your side is gone. At first, they brush it off. They convince themselves you'll return eventually, that this is a game, a phase, a bluff. But days stretch into longer days. And soon, the space you left behind grows uncomfortable, hollow, real. Your void becomes a presence all its own. It shows up in their moments of reflection, in their sleepless nights, in their attempts to recreate the comfort, attention, or affection you used to offer, now failed, incomplete, or forced with others who don't carry your depth. Because that's the thing, real connection cannot be replaced. It can only be mourned, even if silently. And make no mistake, they may never admit this to you. Pride is a powerful mask, but behind that mask, they start to feel a shift. They sense that something has changed in the emotional architecture of their life. Where there was once the warm hum of your consistent presence, there is now stillness, and this stillness is not peaceful. It's unnerving, because it reminds them of what they once had, and more importantly, what they didn't value. They scroll through old messages. Not because they're sentimental, but because they're searching for signs. Did they miss something? Were you already slipping away before you finally vanished? They start to reread things they once ignored, remembering your tone, your phrasing, your warmth, and suddenly, the memories start carrying weight they didn't have before. They begin to question their decision, to wonder if they misunderstood you, to revisit moments they thought they'd forgotten. Because time doesn't erase depth, it amplifies it, and your depth, now missing, begins to haunt the empty corners of their routine. And here's where you must be resolute. Do not fill the void. Let them feel it. Let them sit with the discomfort of your absence. If you rush to comfort them, to check in, to prove your value, you rob them of the very contrast they now need. They must come to it on their own, through reflection, not through rescue.
In this chapter of distance, the strongest message is the one left unsent. The power of your void is not in punishing them. It's in showing them what life looks like without your influence, your kindness, your steadiness. Only then can they understand what was lost.
And not all will. Some will fill the void with noise, never stopping long enough to truly feel. But those who once connected with you on a genuine level, they will feel it. Not immediately, but eventually. And once they do, the void becomes their teacher. They will begin to sense what it was that you offered. Not just in words, but in the subtle constancy of your presence. And the more they feel your absence, the more they begin to appreciate the essence you brought to their life. That's not manipulation. That's revelation. Your job now is simple. Though not easy, stay gone, stay silent, stay sovereign. While they feel your void, fill yourself. Let your own life become so rich, so full, so elevated, that if they ever return, they find someone not waiting, but ascending. If you've ever witnessed someone who didn't care at first slowly come to feel your void, not through your effort, but through your absence, share what it taught you. Your story might offer strength to someone standing at that same threshold. Chapter 4. Growth makes you magnetic. While they sit with the hollow echo of your absence, something else is happening. Something powerful, something subtle, something far more attractive than words or promises. You're growing, quietly, steadily, away from their gaze without their validation. And that growth, authentic, personal, undeniable, becomes magnetic. You see, most people expect you to pause when they leave. They expect you to freeze, to linger in limbo, orbiting their memory like a forgotten satellite. They imagine that you're stuck, waiting, hoping, clinging. And when you don't fulfill that expectation, when instead you begin to rise, to evolve, to flourish, they don't know what to do with that image. Your growth shatters the narrative they had of you. It breaks their illusion that you needed them to move forward. And when you start glowing differently, through discipline, new purpose, deeper insight, they notice, even from afar. Even if they pretend not to. You are not the same person they left. Your silence wasn't stagnation. It was transformation. You've been building, reading, creating, training. You've been reconnecting with the parts of yourself that were dimmed by emotional compromise. And now, you walk with a quieter confidence, a sharper clarity, a deeper calm, and growth. Real growth does not need to be flaunted. It radiates. It hums beneath your skin. It changes the way you move, speak, even breathe. They'll see it in your posture, your focus, the way your words cut with intention. Instead of insecurity, they'll hear it in your tone, measured, warm, but no longer seeking approval. In this new version of you, it's not just more attractive, it's harder to reach. That's what truly begins to stir their longing. You're no longer accessible. You've moved forward, not out of spite, but out of necessity. And when they try to reconnect, they find that the emotional terrain has changed. You're not where they left you. They begin to wonder who you've become, what you're doing, who has your attention now. And while curiosity alone is not enough to draw someone back, respect is, and nothing earns more respect than someone who chose growth over grief, evolution over ego. Here's the truth few speak of. Growth is not just healing. It is replacement. You don't just heal the wounds, you replace the patterns, the thoughts, the energy that kept you bound. And in doing so, you become someone new, not just someone who survived the departure, but someone who used it as fuel to rise higher. The beauty of Stoic growth is that it's quiet. It doesn't chase applause. It doesn't post every milestone. It doesn't need permission. And in that silence, in that steady forward motion, you become a mystery, a source of wondering, and people are drawn to what they don't fully understand, especially when they once thought they knew you. They will compare who you were with who you've become. And if your evolution is authentic, that comparison will humble them. It will challenge their assumptions. It will stir both admiration and regret. But none of this works if your growth is performative. You cannot fake evolution. You must live it. Day by day, discipline by discipline, quietly refining who you are. Not for them, but for yourself. So journal, train, read, build something. Heal fully. Forgive deeply. Not for their return, but for your own expansion. And when they do return, if they do, let them meet someone they no longer recognize. Someone too rooted in purpose to be pulled back into patterns. That's when your growth becomes undeniable. When you no longer need to say a word. Your evolution speaks for you. Your energy has shifted. Your focus has sharpened. You are no longer the same. And that change, that difference, it pulls on their soul like gravity. If you're in that phase now, quietly rebuilding, rediscovering who you are, share what part of you has grown the most since stepping away. Your reflection might be the mirror someone else needs to begin their own rise. Chapter 5. Silence stirs their mind. There is something unnerving about silence. It is not emptiness. It is not absence. It is a presence that does not explain itself. It waits, it echoes, and it lingers in the corners of the mind, growing louder the longer it remains unanswered. When you fall silent, truly silent, after being someone who once showed up, reached out, made them feel seen and understood, your stillness becomes a question they can't stop asking. At first, they may convince themselves that your silence is temporary, that you're playing a role, waiting for them to chase, hoping to draw them back. They may even dismiss it, try to overwrite the quiet with noise, with opinions from others, with self-convincing logic. But silence, when born from calm and conviction, doesn't fade. It deepens. It starts to invade their thoughts at inconvenient times during long walks, between songs, in the moments when the crowd disappears and the night begins to stretch. They begin to feel the weight of all that you are not saying. And this is where your power lies. You see, people are used to reactions. They are conditioned to expect a message, a gesture, a confession, a door left slightly ajar. They're prepared for confrontation, even for begging. But silence? Silence is unexpected. It offers no comfort, no closure, no clues. And because of that, it draws the mind inward. They start to think, really think. Not just about what you did or said, but about themselves. About what part they played in this shift. About why the person who once cared so openly now walks without noise, without fanfare, without permission. They begin to replay every last word between you. Conversations you forgot long ago now resurface in their memory with sharp clarity. They start analyzing tones, pauses, eye contact. They wonder when exactly the current changed. Was what something they said, something they didn't say? Could they have stopped it? Should they have? And all this reflection is made possible not because you shouted, but because you remained still. Because you gave them nothing. No drama, no accusations, no last desperate attempt to be understood. Just space. And that space becomes a mirror. What they see in that mirror will differ. Some will see their pride, others will see their mistakes. And for those capable of depth, Capable of introspection, your silence becomes the catalyst for realization. Regret begins to stir. Not loud, not immediate, but deep. This is the moment when longing takes root. Because now they're not just missing you, they're haunted by your silence. They realize you haven't tried to return. You haven't hovered. You haven't asked for answers. That realization can feel like abandonment to someone who was used to being chased, and yet, at the same time, it's magnetic. They begin to crave contact, if only to quiet the noise that your silence has awakened inside them. Your silence challenges them to grow. If they choose to accept the challenge, it forces them to evaluate whether they were truly present in your connection, or simply comfortable. It becomes a test of character, theirs, not yours. But your role is not to wait. Your role is to stay still, to let your silence stretch as wide as it needs to, not as a punishment, but as a boundary, a sacred space where your peace cannot be disturbed by anything less than what you deserve. Let your silence do what no explanation can: invite the mind to wander, to revisit, to question. Because in the absence of sound, imagination grows, and they will imagine your world without them. They will imagine who now hears your laughter, who now holds your attention, who now sits where they once stood. This, too, is not manipulation. It is consequence. The natural outcome of undervaluing something or someone until it is too late to rewind. And what they feel in this space is not pain inflicted by you, but the echo of their own decisions. There's no need to fill the silence with noise. Your strength is not in your ability to explain yourself, but in your refusal to beg for recognition. The more you lean into that, the more your silence will stir thoughts they cannot silence. If you've ever experienced the shift, when your silence made someone finally pay attention, share how it unfolded. Those words could guide someone who still doubts the power of quiet. Chapter 6. They rethink their actions. Eventually, silence, absence, and growth culminate in an inescapable moment. They begin to reconsider their actions. Not just vaguely, not just in passing, but deeply. They start retracing their own footsteps, piecing together every moment they dismissed you, minimized you, and the further you've pulled away, the more those memories begin to sharpen. Because when you were present, they didn't have to think. They didn't have to examine their behavior. You absorbed the impact. You gave them the benefit of the doubt. You tried to make things work, perhaps too many times. But now that you're gone, your silence throws a spotlight on every misstep they made. They remember the jokes they made at your expense, the messages they left unanswered, the invitations they declined, the half-hearted effort, the indecision, the moments when you clearly cared and they clearly didn't meet you there. And in your absence, those moments gain new weight. Regret is strange like that. It arrives in fragments. At first, it's just a tug, a flicker of unease. But as they sit with the silence and start noticing your evolution from afar, those flickers start to burn. They can no longer ignore the contrast between how they treated you and what you became without them. And what burns the most is not your absence, but the realization that you gave them every chance. You were open, patient, present. You tried. You communicated. You were emotionally available. But they, in their pride or confusion or immaturity, didn't reciprocate. And now, you've slipped from their reach. This is when the mind does what it always does when faced with permanent change. It tries to rewrite the past. They start to reshape memories, attempting to reframe themselves as someone who cared more than they showed. They remember small moments they overlooked, now suddenly bursting with importance. They begin to realize just how much you are giving, how much effort it truly took to hold that connection together. But it's too late, and that lateness is the source of their torment. Because now, even if they reach out, they don't know who they're reaching out to. You've grown. You've changed. You may not respond the same way you once did. You may not respond at all. This uncertainty is what begins to eat at them. In their mind, you were supposed to remain the same. You were supposed to always be there, waiting, hoping, forgiving. But the person they now envision is no longer that version. And the fear of being rejected by this new, elevated you is paralyzing. This fear often masquerades as silence on their part. But don't be fooled. Silence is not always indifference. Sometimes it's shame. Sometimes it's the weight of their own reflection. Sometimes they're not staying quiet because they don't care, but because they realize they no longer have a guaranteed place in your life. And what stings most, they did this, not you, not chance, not circumstance. They chose half-effort. They ignored your energy. They created this reality with their actions, or lack thereof. Now they want back what they themselves broke. But it's not so simple, because you're not a bookmark they can return to when the story gets dull. You're not a comfort zone to visit between failures. You're a person. And you've evolved. In the face of your transformation, they rethink everything. They may even consider reaching out, crafting messages they never send, writing and deleting words they no longer have the right to speak. But the fact that they hesitate is proof that they know the damage wasn't just done to you, it was done by them. The question now is, will they act? Will they take responsibility? Or will they live with the echo of what they lost? The answer is not yours to wait for. It's theirs to decide. Your task is only this: continue forward. Stay true to your path. Because the more you honor your journey, the more their regret transforms from curiosity to consequence. If you've ever had someone return, humbled by their own mistakes, or if you're watching that process unfold now, share how it changed the way you see them. Your clarity might offer someone else the closure they're seeking. Chapter 7. Your strength pulls them. By now, your absence has echoed in their days. Your calm has unsettled their confidence. Your silence has stirred their thoughts. And your growth that has left a mark they did not expect. But what begins to pull them back, not just in thought, but in desire, is something deeper. It is your strength. Because what they underestimated, what they perhaps never saw clearly while you were close, is that your strength was never about force. It wasn't in volume. It wasn't in control. Your strength was, and is, composure. It's that unshakable sense of self that remained intact, even as things fell apart. It's the way you carried yourself in the silence. It's how you kept walking steady, slow, assured, even when they expected you to stumble. This kind of strength is rare. It doesn't demand attention, but it earns respect. And once someone realizes that they were in the presence of such a steady soul, it changes how they see you. Suddenly, you are no longer just someone they dated, or hurt, or let go. You become something more, a standard, a mirror, a chapter in their life that starts to haunt them with a single question. How did I lose that? Your strength calls to them, not because it invites them in, but because it stands alone. It doesn't reach out. It doesn't explain. It doesn't plead. It holds itself like a mountain holds its peak, unmoved by weather, unmoved by time. And when they compare that strength to the chaos of what came after you, the instability, the surface-level connections, the noise that fills the spaces where your presence used to offer peace, they begin to feel the pull, not to possess you, but to feel close to something solid again. You are no longer just the one who cared. You are the one who endured, who didn't collapse when things went cold, who didn't retaliate with bitterness, who didn't become someone else just to cope. That kind of integrity, it's unforgettable. And that's what draws them back. Because in a world of people who bend, who break, who fold under rejection, you stood still. You refined yourself. You rose higher, not with vengeance, but with vision. You did not chase. You did not try to prove your worth. You became it, and now they see it. Clearly, they see what they missed. Not because you told them, but because you showed them. You showed them through the life you built without their help, through the calm that deepened in their absence, through the way you no longer need their approval to stand tall. But here is the truth many do not expect. When someone is drawn to your strength, it often makes them feel weak. And in that weakness, some will reach out humbly, admitting their faults, seeking to grow, wanting to meet you on your level. Others, however, will try to test your strength, to see if it's real, to see if you'll bend just one more time. You must know the difference. Because your strength is not just for them to admire, it is for you to protect. Not everyone who returns is ready for what you've become. And not everyone who regrets losing you deserves another chance to try. Some people will be pulled by your light, but still be bound by their own shadows. They may say the right words, even mean them. But if they have not done their own work, their presence will only blur your path. So be careful, be kind, yes, but be clear. You are not obligated to welcome them back just because they finally see your value. Your strength is not proven by who wants you, but by who you allow to stay close to you now that you've risen. And sometimes the strongest act of all is not taking someone back, but walking away again. This time, with no emotional weight left behind. They will feel it. They already do. The pull of your energy, the power of your presence, the integrity of your silence. You are no longer just someone they miss. You are someone they respect, maybe even someone they now fear losing forever. That is the paradox of strength. It creates distance, even as it draws others near. If someone has ever come back into your life, not because you begged but because your strength became undeniable, tell us how it unfolded. Your story may be the reminder someone else needs to hold their ground today. Conclusion. You didn't beg. You didn't chase. You didn't fill the silence with noise. You simply chose yourself. And in that choice, you became unforgettable. Let them feel the space you once occupied. Let your calm be the loudest thing they hear. Let your growth humble their memory of who you once were. Let your strength pull them back. Not because you need them to return, but because they now realize what they could not see when you were standing in front of them. This is not about revenge. It's about revelation. It's about showing through your presence, your poise, and your peace that you are not someone who vanishes into heartbreak, but someone who evolves from it. So, if you've ever sparked someone's longing, simply by stepping into your power, if you've ever watched someone return, unsure, humbled, maybe even pleading, You know the truth. The most powerful moves you'll ever make are made in silence. If this message stirred something in you, if it echoed a moment in your life, or reminded you of the power you've been hiding, share your thoughts in the comments. This space is for stories, not just silence. And if you found value in this, if you felt spoken to, then take a quiet moment right now to subscribe, not because you were told to, but because you recognize that this voice, this message, this path is aligned with yours. Until next time, stay still, stay strong, stay sovereign.